Today, we're going to talk about one of the fastest growing crypto crimes in the world, romance scams. And in particular, we're going to talk about a specific type known as pig butchering scams. This is because just yesterday, a story came out about a middle-aged man in Boston, Massachusetts. He met a lady on a dating app named Linda Brown. Was she real? No. Was the love real? No. Was his loss real? Absolutely it was. And according to the US Federal Trade Commission, over $1 billion were lost in romance scams just last year. And there's a wonderful phrase which I discovered: Cupid does not ask for crypto, but scammers do. So let's get into it. If you're new here, my name is Greg. I am the crypto historian. I make videos just like this. And if that interests you, please do like and subscribe to get more of these in the future. So let's talk about the case in Boston. A middle-aged man, let's call him Dave, goes online on a dating app. He meets this lady who he finds very attractive named Linda Brown. Now, crucially, Linda does not live in Boston, so the need for them to meet up or the impetus to say, okay, we've been talking for a little bit, let's go get a coffee or let's grab some dinner, did not exist. This is an important part of the scam. So because of the physical distance, or at least perceived physical distance, the relationship takes place exclusively online. They communicate every day, they start to build a relationship, find out more about each other, and the man starts to really fall for this very attractive lady. After a while, she mentions to him casually, hey, I actually work in trading and I'm making a lot of money in cryptocurrency, and I've actually noticed this brilliant opportunity here. Would you like to invest? And so because he's been talking to Linda for a while and he quite likes her, and he also doesn't want to ruin the chances of a potential long-term relationship, he decides, okay, I'm going to invest a little bit of money with you just to test this out. So he sends her some USDT. This is very common in scams. A, they use crypto, and B, they'll allow you to send a little bit of money first as a kind of teaser. And so as a result, he sends her a little bit of money, and wouldn't you just know it, within a couple of weeks, she has made him a huge supernormal level of profit. He's absolutely delighted. He's got extra money and he potentially has a long-term romantic partner here. So then he agrees to the big transfer. $327,829 in USDT. She says, okay, that's excellent. I'm going to take the money, I'm going to invest it, and you can expect the same level of returns, maybe even more than we got the first time. Then some time goes by. The communication is not as regular as it used to be, and it slowly starts to dawn on the man that maybe this is a little bit of a scam. Panicked, he messages her. He says he wants to withdraw the money, and she tells him the money cannot be withdrawn. This is always the case with romance scams. The scam only becomes visible and only becomes real when the victim tries to withdraw the funds. That is a very powerful and very terrifying psychological moment, particularly with the sums of money we're talking about here. So this is an example of a classic pig butchering scam. And it's obviously, pig butchering is a metaphor for what's going on here. So there are a few stages. There's the initial setup where a scammer will set up, or indeed a team of scammers will set up some dating profile apps, and they'll start to match with people. They'll start to talk to them normally, get to know them, nothing too crazy. And they'll casually mention and drop into the conversation over time, oh, by the way, I do some investing, maybe my job is a trader, something along those lines. And I make great profits out of it. So they're not directly asking for money, but they're seasoning or peppering into the conversation, look, this is what I do, and I happen to be very successful at it. This is the grooming process. Their daily communication, they're building an emotional bond, and most importantly, they're gaining the trust of their victim. So under the term pig butchering, the next stage is known as the fattening. So you fatten up the pig slowly. You say, listen, this opportunity has come up. I'd love to help you out. If you want to give me a small amount of money, it could be $200, could be $1,000. You send that to me, I'll invest it, and I'll make a great return for you. So even though someone might be skeptical, they might say, okay, you know what? I have 100. I'll give you 100. And within about a week or 8 days, the scammer returns and says, you'll never believe it. I've turned this $100 into $250 or $500. If you give me your Cash App, your Revolut, your crypto wallet, I'll send the money back to you. And this is where it's interesting. They tend to actually send the person some money. So the person goes, I gave money, it multiplied, and I got it back. This must be legit. So this is the pig fattening phase. And then unfortunately what happens is the person after a few days turns around and says, I've seen another opportunity, but this time the buy-in is much higher. It might be 10,000, might be 50,000, or in the case of our friend from Boston, it could be 320,000. And the person says, yeah, okay, I can't believe you made so much money the first time. How much are we going to make this time? And this is the slaughter, where all of a sudden a huge sum of money is transferred from the victim to the person who he thinks is a romantic partner or potential one, but is actually usually an individual or a team of scammers, usually based in Asia. I'm sorry, but that is the case. And then it is only after a while, when the person, after a couple of days, says, hey, how's my investment getting on? I'd like to withdraw some. That is the exit. The pig is firmly slaughtered at that point. The money is gone, and the likelihood is you're never going to see that again, and you'll probably never get a message from your potential romantic person ever again. It's cold, it's clinical, and it happened on crypto. And the question is, why does this happen in crypto? Why don't people ask for bank transfers? Well, crypto, unfortunately, is still a bit of the Wild West, even though there has been a lot of regulation in recent years. And as a result, it is much easier in the crypto world as opposed to the banking world to scam people. Mainly because people can have wallets that are unregistered or they're pseudonymous, so they're not linked to identities of any description. You can also take, people might say, well, in crypto, the money passes through blockchains and therefore is traceable. Well, in the cryptocurrency world, there are things called mixers. You can take some coins that are fully traceable from their moment of origin. You can put them in a mixer and then they can come out clean the other side. It's a way to digitally wash or indeed launder funds to not be able to trace their original source. Big thing in crypto is also that settlement is almost instant. So in the banking world, it might take a couple of days to send money internationally. And if you get the sense this could be a scam, you could contact your bank and they can actually cancel or recall transactions and shut down the scammer's bank account. In crypto, that's a lot harder to do. Settlement happens in a matter of seconds or even milliseconds, depending on the blockchain you're using. And the second the scammer gets that money, they can distribute it out to several different wallets. They can put it through mixers. So it's very hard to chase, it's very hard to reclaim. And in a lot of situations, it's actually very hard to trace. But I want to frame this in a way that's important. It's not cryptocurrency that's a scam. Cryptocurrency is a tool used to carry out the scam. And that is something that is lost in a lot of mainstream media coverage. A lot of people have this belief or this reasoning that everything in crypto is a scam. Unfortunately, given the set of properties, the instant settlement, the fast transaction times, the fact that it is pseudonymous or in some cases completely anonymous, and there are the ability to mix or wash coins, it is the perfect tool for scammers to target people and take their funds. And that stat from the US Trade Commission is shocking, that in the last calendar year, you're looking at over $1 billion being stolen through pig butchering scams, particularly romance scams. And the vast majority of that money is taken through crypto. It does happen on fiat currencies, but scammers prefer crypto for the reasons that I went through. Now, $1 billion is a huge amount of money. This isn't a couple of thousand, or this isn't even several million. It is $1 billion. And unfortunately, our friend in Boston, Dave, who we gave him the name of, he was one of hundreds of thousands of victims. And he unfortunately gave a very large sum in USDT, and he'll never see that money again. Now, you might hear that story and say, how could someone be so foolish as to meet a random person on the internet? Perhaps they've only ever talked through a dating app or WhatsApp or iMessage or something along those lines. And then the individual sends them or requests that they send them hundreds of thousands, and the victim actually partakes in this process. Well, I know that sounds crazy, but it does happen, as we know, with that $1 billion number. But personally, I do have not an experience of attempting to be scammed, but a few years ago, I was introduced to an older gentleman by a contact of mine who was a mutual friend. And he was talking about the idea of investing large sums of money in cryptocurrency. He worked in software previously, so he was not completely outside of that world, let's say. He understood computers. He wrote a lot of code in his day. And he wanted to know how the world of cryptocurrency worked, because when I met him, he told me that a very nice looking younger lady had reached out to him in LinkedIn, and she was some kind of crypto broker or trader. The details were hazy. And she had said that, look, I can guarantee you returns of 30, 40%. I do it myself and to all my private clients. And this is something you should get on board with. And immediately I said to him, this is a scam. And he said, no, it's not. I was skeptical myself that it was a scam. So I sent her an amount of €250 at the time. And within a week, she came back and said that she had turned that into €1,500. So you're looking at essentially a 6x. And he said, God, that's amazing. And she sent him the money to his bank account. And so he said, it's not a scam. She turned my money into a much larger sum. And so I'm going to send her more. And I was explaining to him that this is part of the fattening process, or this is the grooming process, that it is possible, even for a very clever individual like that, who has worked in software, had his own companies, to be lured in by someone who may seem attractive or exciting and have this incredible method to multiply their funds very effortlessly through crypto. And you can understand from someone's perspective outside of the world of crypto, they may have seen headlines online or in mainstream media, particularly during bull runs, about teenagers who turned $8,000 into 65 million by investing into Shiba Inu or something along those lines. So it does happen to people. And I went back and forth with this guy, several conversations, and he would say, oh, well, she messaged me today and she wants to know when I'm sending funds. And then the red flags really started. I just kept saying to him, stop talking to this lady. Like, she's trying to get her hands on your money and possibly something else like identity theft. And he was saying, oh, she said to set me up with her official brokerage account. I need to send my passport and proofs of address. And I was saying to him, do not do this, because not only will she take the money you send her, but she could also use identity theft to get access to your bank accounts and other things. And in the end, after several months, he was convinced that this was legitimate. I kept telling him it was a scam. He would not listen to me. And we eventually broke contact because I just said, look, every time we talk, I tell you the same thing and you don't believe me. So even very smart, very successful individuals can fall for this scam. And it does happen a lot with romance scams, that their guard is down because in a romantic sense, they're thinking emotionally as opposed to rationally. And that is two different sides of the brain. And that can be a very, very expensive mistake. That is the thing. The oldest scam in the book isn't necessarily robbing people or taking their money. It's preying on their emotions, preying on their vulnerability. And in this case, and in romance scams case, you're preying on people's loneliness. People are on those apps because they want to meet someone. And so when they do meet someone who messages them every day and wants to know about them and seems interested, when a request is made like, hey, send me a little bit of money, I'll show you what I do for a living and how much money I make, they don't want to jeopardize that potential connection, because then they're back to square one. They haven't met anyone and they're being lonely. So it's that companionship that is weaponized. And unfortunately, the technology of cryptocurrency and blockchain weaponizes that. And it takes advantage of a lot of vulnerable people in some very sad situations. So it's important to remember that Cupid will never ask you for crypto. Scammers will. So if you meet someone, if you're on a dating app and someone casually throws in, after 2 hours, 2 days, whatever it may be, hey, I'm actually a trader, or I'm an investor, I can give you some great results. You're not being courted, you're not being dated, you're being fattened up as the ceremonial pig. And when the slaughter comes, you could stand to lose a lot of money. So be on the lookout. But thank you very much for watching this video. If you've enjoyed this one, I guarantee you'll like that one.